Mike.
All the cool kids are here.
Okay. Lightning talks. They're going to go quick. Some of them are 5 minutes. Some of them are 10. We've got a really, it's kind of brutal. You just start playing music when they hit their time. Like,
get her done.
It's done. So,
if you're on the list if you're doing a lightning talk and you're not here and ready to go when it's your turn, we're going to skip you.
Next person.
So be here and ready to go.
Next talk if you're not here when it's your turn. Okay.
And if they play the music and you keep on talking, we're going to start heckling you. So try to avoid that.
So we're starting with Andy, and he's going to be talking about AI, which doesn't mean what you think it means.
No.
So take it away, Andy.
Thank you very much. So, somewhat facetiously, I want to talk about absolute intelligence. Now, I hear there's this machine learning thing going on, but the intelligence I want to talk about is the natural intelligence that's already this. So, when I heard it was a dinosaur theme, I struggled to connect with that until I realized that I am the dinosaur. Honestly, no joke. 53 years old, live in the woods, one of these phones. I go on the internet 3 times a week for 5 minutes. So I'm exactly the type of human that is being replaced. I'm an example of obsoleteness. So I am the dinosaur. I'm not particularly technophobic. I'm not particularly pro the technology. I'm a druid. And a druid is someone who listens to the trees. As I say, I live in the woods. And when you listen to the trees, you realize after some time that you're listening to the original, massive, networked intelligence. Trees communicate with one another via the fungal mycelium. This is an example of a profound, massive, slowly evolved, networked intelligence. So absolute intelligence or natural superintelligence is this. It is that which recognizes light blue as light blue, sound as sound, texture as texture. It is always already present as itself. It is timeless. It is immediate. It is spontaneous awakeness. So that's what I mean by AI. It differs, and in my opinion will always be incomparable to this upstart other AI that people talk about, in being non-filtrational. Now, my limited understanding of AI is that it depends on algorithms and clusters of algorithms. They screen, they filter. This intelligence here does not filter. It includes everything. The second difference is this natural intelligence, this human intelligence, is only ever approximately real. We tend to live in the world as if it were real. People say the real world, in the real world. In reality, this existence is both real and unreal. It is both this and completely fleeting. And that's another superiority of natural intelligence. It is only ever approximate and approximately real. The other thing that it is, this natural intelligence, is it is an absolute connection, an unbreakable connection with the fundamental uncertainty of reality. The great thing is, when this became fully at home here, I realized that I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. And none of us ever knows what's going to happen next. We live in a profoundly and eternally uncertain system, and our natural intelligence fully conforms with that. So that's another superiority. So in these ways, natural intelligence will, in my view, always evolutionarily outperform this so-called machine intelligence. AI, artificial intelligence, I'm sure is and will be amazing. I just wouldn't want any of us to confuse it with the real thing.
By the way, if you want to talk to Andy more, he is doing mindfulness all day tomorrow. There's a room set up for it, so go look for him. That was awesome, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our next speaker has asked us to address him formally, so we will invite now Sir Alan Plasto to the stage. And
I'm excited about this talk.
Yeah.
This is near to my heart because my daughter's doing something similar, so I'm really interested. And I checked out your website this morning, and it was really cool.
Great. Could we, oh yeah. If we just link, oh, here we go. There we go. Great, okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes for Angular DNA. So very quickly, Angular DNA is all about learning visually different parts of Angular. What we've got in this very close 5-minute slot is learning reactive forms. We can see in front of us, this is a pre-written component with its template. Basically, what Angular DNA does, it takes the component as we know, and we actually can see at the top 3 different categories. When you select a category, what happens is Angular DNA knows behind the scenes that there are certain active elements that talk about, in this case, number 1, reactive forms overview, form building, defining form model. As you hover over each element, what happens is it shows you the actual visuals that will be when you select it, that will be displayed and taken through it. So again, you hover over each part, it shows you what you will see upon selecting. Upon hovering this one, if I select, it'll take you to that part, and then as you can see at the top, you step through step by step, in this case, how to define the form model. It'll actually move vertically, the actual display up and down, and you can actually see, in this case, how the template links in with the class itself, what links together. So it's very much visual. There's not a lot of text space. Obviously, there's text in there, but it's very much linking it together in a visual form. At the end of it, you go on to the next part. So just to go through that again, form validation, again, color-coded. On this one, how to build built-in validations, cross-field validation using nested groups. Let's try that one. We select it. We go through, and it shows you how to link the template, in this case, to the actual form model. And then, if we can see right at the top, what it's saying is after, in this case, doing the cross-field validation, the next logical area to go to is the change validation rules dynamically. You go up to it, hover over it again, select, and it goes through, repositions to the right part of the component to actually show you the next part it's trying to teach you. Go forward again, takes you through the learning step by step, forward and backwards, until you come to the end. So the concept, very quickly, is all about seeing visually the areas of Angular. This is one that's currently in development. This is NGRX. So very quickly, with 2 minutes to go, the NGRX Redux cycle that we know, what we've done here is we've got the shell component leading onto the presentation component, leading onto the actions, going on to effects, going round, services, reducers, into the store, and coming back the other way with selectors. So we've got the cycle depicted on here, and in exactly the same way, we have these categories. So this, if we say, let's save to store, again, it lights up the display, shows you which ones of these to go over to, and in this case, shows you what the actual route around that cycle is. So to start off with, if we select this one, it shows you how to get from the shell component out to the action. It's saying the next one to logically pick is this one. This is step 2. You select this, takes you through how to go from the action down to the effect. Then again, step 3, from the effect down to the service, back in. So it's showing you the flow of data. It's showing you the flow of information and also how you could relate to this when you're actually developing it. And just to finish this off, on load success, comes out of the effect, goes back to the action, comes to the top, and then finally, upon hitting the load success action, goes down to the reducer. The reducer takes the action that's been selected, and finally finishes off by updating the store. So more than it being the actual content we were saying, it's really this predefined tutorials, visually displayed and played back to you. Behind the scenes, there's a full editor that comes with this. We've just seen the view element. The editor allows you to put these tutorials together. You import the code from a normal editor. It imports the code, so everything you see in there you don't type in. You import it, and then it allows you to write these tutorials on top of the code. So just to finish off, Angular DNA is the Twitter. Go up there, see what's happening. It's all in development. That's it. Thank you very much. All righty.
Don't go away.
All righty. Cheers.
Timed it perfectly, too. All right. Next up, we got a duo, Dimitri and Konstantin. And you guys got 5 minutes talking about your open source journey.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, let's hear about it. You guys need another mic?
No, yeah.
You good with one?
Yeah. Okay. So, good evening. My name is Konstantin, and this is Dmitry. Hi. We work for the Belarusian company Aqua, and we love open source. Could you raise your hand if you ever heard of NGX admin or Nebular? Okay, cool. So I'm going to tell a couple of words how we came up with the Nebular. We started our open source journey in the middle of 2015 by creating Blur admin. It was built on top of AngularJS. To be honest, the first plan was to build something for the template market. This place where people could buy and sell different HTML templates. But after some tension with the review team, we decided to share it with the community and push it to the GitHub. Looking back, I could say that was the only right decision to do. At that time, Google released Angular 2. Of course, we played a little with it and found it really promising. So the next step was obvious. We started working on the next version of Blur admin. Well, 3 months of work, and voila, NG2 admin came to the world. During the next incremental releases, we started to see the potential of the core features of the template. Plus, we wanted somehow improve update process for user repositories, which once we moved all the core functionality to the separate library and npm module, it really helped our user to update their repositories, get latest changes, fixes, and new features. So we call that library Nebular, and Dmitry will tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Kostya. Yeah, so as Kostya just said, we had that core, so the components we extracted from the template. And this is where we decided to take a bit different route and to enrich the library with more functional rather than visual modules. So besides the UI kit, which we called a SIM module, we decided to add 2 more modules, authentication and security. So let me tell you a bit more about the modules. So the SIM module is basically a set of Angular components sharing the same look and feel. As of now, it supports 3 visual themes, light, dark, and corporate, and it is also possible to create a custom brand-aware theme. The cool feature here is that it is possible to change a theme dynamically in an app runtime with no need to reload the page. The next module is the authentication module. Well, the idea of the module is to decouple, to separate the UI part of the authentication process from the authentication logic. And this is done with the help of a strategy concept, where a strategy, like it encapsulates all the logic related to a particular authentication provider. So currently the library has 3 strategies out of the box. The first one is a password. Our strategy, which is for basic user password authentication flow. The next strategy is OAuth 2 protocol strategy, so that you can connect your front end with Google OAuth or Facebook OAuth or any authentication provider that supports the protocol. And the third strategy is dummy auth strategy, which is basically for testing purposes. And the third module is security module. it implements the common access control list pattern, which means that we can configure our app roles, resources, and permissions in one place of the front-end app, and then with the help of Angular directive or service, define which content is visible on the page and for whom. So yeah, this was the 3 Nebular modules and like a quick intro into the module, into the Nebular library. If you have any questions, we're around here and we'll be happy to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay. All right, my mic switched. So we got, I don't know how to say your name, so I'm calling you by your Twitter handle. JD, oh, there you go, Joe. JD Pierce. Everyone welcome JD Pierce, talking about speaker ballads.
Yeah. Let's go with this one. This will do. Yeah, my name's Joe. Hi. I'm a non-binary senior dev based here in London. I'm going to try something a little bit different and not talk about Angular at all. I'm going to read you a couple of poems that I wrote. The first one's about what it's like to take up speaking, and the second is about what might come after that. It begins with a thought. There's something that's caught in my head, an idea, an experience that I want to share. It leads me to thinking of where I can speak and to whom, to finding a meetup, a room full of peers. But how to put form to it? What should I say? How do I handle my fears? How do I stand up in front of a crowd? How do I say what I'm thinking aloud? Where do I start? To which God should I pray? But it's not about gods, it's just meeting with folks. There's no secret to it, no learning the ropes, no just shaping the things that we know and we love. From there, all it takes is one shove the right way, because all of us have something worthwhile to say. So I write up my thoughts, I peruse CFPs, I learn about slide decks, find stock photos for free, build up my courage, submit distillations, and shortly thereafter receive invitations to speak. And then I feel weak. I haven't done this before. Will I be able to stand, take the floor, make sure my slides and my words are connected? Will the things that I say be embraced or rejected? I arrive at the venue, it's empty and bare. I head to the front and look back over where I'll be speaking in front of this jury of peers. I hope they won't judge me too harshly up here. No matter how much I might strive for composure, I can't shake this fear that I'll die of exposure. But finally I meet with the host of the evening. We focus on detail. Remember, keep breathing. What kind of laptop? Do I have the right cable? Where should I put it? Right here on this table? USB what? Maybe HDMI? So many adapters, we give each a try. Will microphones pick up the noise if I shake? Was wearing an outfit like this a mistake? I'm nervous and tense. I can hear my heart beating as people file in and we kick off the meeting. It's funny how quickly the time flashes by. All the practice was worth it. I don't know why I was worried. The only complaint I can make is I hurried to get through some slides that might not have been clear. But I know I'll do better the next time I'm here. Because now that I'm done, I can see it by their faces. I've brought up some points that have put them through paces. I thank them for coming and paying attention. Now all that remains is to ask, any questions? This is more of a comment than a question. Why? Why should I listen? What made you think that your words are of use, your unasked for opinion, your monotone droning on something that's only loosely related to what I was trying to teach? It's not even clear who you're trying to reach. Do you want my approval? Do you want their applause? What do you expect? When your interjection is cause, what should be the effect? This is more of a comment than a question. Why do we have to go through this? It was going so well, I thought we'd connected. I thought as an audience knew what was expected. I've offered my time, shared the thoughts in my head, we developed rapport, now you're killing it, dead. This is more of a comment than a question. Do you know how I feel when those words break the silence? Defeated, deflated. I've failed as a speaker. Those words pierce the air, I feel suddenly weaker. I'm no longer listening to what will be said, I'm just imagining violence. Smiling and waiting politely for what? You to assemble some semblance of thought. What is it from this that you're hoping to gain? As we inwardly groan, thinking, damn, here we go again. Oh, I just want to echo something you said earlier. Why? Weren't they here? Was nobody listening? Was everyone late? Were you just trying and failing to wait until I stopped speaking so that you could start to undermine my position, detract from my role? Repeat something I said and make out it's your own. For what reason? What goal? Disrespecting my gender, or just reinforcing the white cis male agenda? Have you thought of this thing that's completely off topic? Look, tangents are fun, but what relevance is there? You've studied a subject, I get that you're proud. Do you need us to think that you're smart, not just loud? you're not going to get that volunteering pieces of what I can only assume is your PhD thesis. If you just wanted to speak, write a talk of your own, it's something anyone can do, as I'm sure I've just shown. But when the tables are turned and you're standing up here, when you've given your all and you've conquered your fear, I'll raise up my hand and watch your expression as I utter the words, this is more of a comment than a question. Thank you.
Yeah. That was some Tim Minchin level stuff. You need to publish that. I loved that a lot. Okay, so Ashnita already gave this talk, and she's moved on from the lightning level talks. So we're gonna move on and give her a break because she already gave a talk on the stage. So thank you. We're gonna invite Daryl to come talk about Mega Angular, putting the mega in megabus.com. So everyone, welcome Daryl.
Hi, my name's Daryl Brown, and I'm a freelance Angular consultant and author of the Upgrade to Angular blog. Today I'm going to talk to you about my experience of using Angular to rebuild the Megabus website. First, a bit of background. The Megabus website was rebuilt from scratch in around 6 months. It was built using ASP.NET and Java running on the server, Angular running in the browser, and a CMS called Episerver, which pulled everything together into the pages you see on the site. Within the CMS, pages are built up from content blocks. Typical content blocks are images, text, that sort of thing. But Megabus wanted to do more. They wanted to add Angular-powered widgets to the CMS, things like the journey planner that you see on the home page. The journey planner just lets you search for coach trips. The thing with the journey planner is it's written in Angular. And if you know Angular, you'll know this isn't how Angular works. We weren't building a single-page app. We were building widgets that could be embedded anywhere in a page. So this was our first challenge, how to get Angular to play nice with a CMS. The solution was to dynamically bootstrap our Angular components. Dynamic bootstrapping is actually pretty simple, and it let us embed our Angular components within CMS blocks without the need for an all-encompassing app element. If you want to know how we did this, there's a great video on YouTube from last year's AngularConnect. Just search for Ward Bell's AngularConnect 2017 talk. He does a great job of explaining dynamic bootstrapping. Today, Angular offers a neater solution. They're called Angular Elements, and we're in the process of converting all our dynamically bootstrapped components over to Angular Elements. In case you haven't heard of Angular Elements, they are Angular components packaged as custom elements. And custom elements are just a standard way to define new HTML elements. They're self-contained and based on web standards. They're pretty neat, and we're seeing some really great results with them. So that's how we got Angular to work inside the CMS. The next challenge was making it fast. The Megabus website gets a fast rating on Google PageSpeed, which puts us in the top third of websites on the internet. But it wasn't always like that. It took some effort to achieve that score. First, we did all the obvious things like lazy loading and reducing bundle sizes. Quick mention here to Source Map Explorer, which we use to explore the contents of our bundles. In our case, it identified 2 libraries that were taking up 50% of our bundle size. Those libraries were Lodash and Moment.js. By removing Moment.js and changing the way we imported Lodash, we were able to reduce our bundle sizes by 50%. But one area that kept tripping us up were our feature switches. See, the website is split into instances, and each instance has its own set of features controlled by feature switches. So these are things like the currencies, the date formats, whether you can book a seat on a particular coach. The feature switches are defined on the server, but we needed them in the browser for Angular to render them properly. And the obvious way for Angular to do this is to retrieve the values using a web service. But there's a couple of downsides to this approach. First, there's a delay while we wait for the results to come back, and we can't render any content until we know which feature switches to apply. Second, every time a page is refreshed, there has to be an additional round trip to fetch these values, which just impacts performance. The solution we came up with was to embed the feature switches in the HTML document as JavaScript variables. And because they're embedded in the HTML, they're available as soon as Angular loads. And from there, it's easy for Angular to wrap these values in an Angular service and then just inject them into other Angular components. And now the configuration values are available as soon as the HTML document loads. Angular can immediately render, and we don't have to show a progress spinner. We were able to use the same technique elsewhere to embed things like drop-down list options and initial search results. And this simple technique really improved our user experience. Next, I want to talk about the team who delivered the website, because key to making this project a success was getting all our devs to work together, regardless of their specialization. And Angular played a pivotal role in this success. The project was delivered by a typical multidiscipline IT department. We had UX devs specializing in HTML, CSS, SAS, .NET devs specializing in C# and ASP.NET technologies, and we had Angular devs specializing in, well, Angular. A workflow went something like this. The business worked with the UX developers to design the look and feel. The UX devs delivered HTML and CSS. The .NET and Angular teams made the HTML come alive. Revisions would go backwards and forwards between the teams until a requirement was signed off. So rather than a pipeline with development moving in one direction, we created what I like to think of as a delicious Yo Sushi style conveyor belt, where code could go round and round until it was finished. To make this possible, we needed to avoid technical silos, and Angular was the glue that made this possible. We found that a little bit of training for our UX, .NET and Java devs was all it took to get them grokking Angular. UX devs found Angular templates easy to understand. C# and Java devs found TypeScript easy to follow. This meant all our devs could work closely on a problem, even going as far as debugging each other's code. But it wasn't all plain sailing. Angular is a complex framework, and we didn't need to use everything to get the most out of Angular. One of the most controversial compromises we made was to avoid observables. We found that many of our non-Angular devs struggled to understand observables. The first retro at the end of the first sprint, the message was clear. Our devs didn't want to use observables. So we took the decision to convert them to promises, something our team was more familiar with. It's true, we lost many of the benefits of RxJS, but this decision meant that our developers had one less thing to learn, made Angular easier to sell, and it kept our teams working together. Did we miss the flexibility of observables? No, not really. There were a few use cases where observables were absolutely the right thing for the job, but in the vast majority of cases, promises were fine. And whilst I'm on the subject of using the right tool for the right job, the final thing I'd like to say is this. Think about where you use Angular. It's fair to say our team fell in love with Angular. They loved it so much they tried to solve every browser in the problem with it. But one size does not fit all. Let me give you an example. We have an image carousel on the home page. You know the sort of thing, it just rotates through a set of images. If you Google Angular image carousel, you'll find plenty of libraries out there to do this. But the thing is, you can achieve the same effect much more efficiently with some CSS and a couple of lines of JavaScript. So make sure you're using the right tool for the right job to keep your site fast. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to get in touch, my name is Darryl Brown. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter and GitHub. Just search for Consult Darryl. I write about Angular on my website and in my newsletter, Upgrade to Angular. So all that remains for me is to say thank you for listening, and please come and say hello afterwards if you've got any questions. Thank you.
All right, just one real quick thing while ours is coming up. I wanted to, I don't know if I'm reminding you guys or just telling you for the first time, but the lightning talks are being recorded. So they will be available later if you want to hear them again. If you're giving a lightning talk and you really don't want to be on YouTube, just let the organizers know. But you really should be on YouTube. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, speaking of cool, here is the sharpest dressed guy at the conference, Lars.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, that's on. Cool. So I work for the Swedish university admission system. So if you ever apply for a university course in Sweden, you go through our system. So this has been around for some 10, 15 years. And sometimes you do feel like an archaeologist rather than a developer to like go through the swathes of code that we have, sometimes like from the late noughties. I joined the team about a year ago, and we were tasked to deliver a new feature, a new messaging system where the students we would have a better way for admins to give students messages that you're accepted on this course and such like. So, but our developers didn't really want to implement this feature in what we had, because what they felt like was they went through the JSP jQuery code, and that jQuery code then loaded more JSP, which in turn loaded even more jQuery, and so on and so forth. So it felt a bit like, you know, in Indiana Jones, where you're supposed to like find your way through the temple, and all of a sudden you set off a trap, and you have to start over again, or you run out of the temple. So what we tried to do, well, we set up a mission to, what if we instead could have this, we could replace this idol, this golden idol that we are getting from the temple with our shiny pouch, which is our Angular app, and make that run inside the volatile situation of the old JSP jQuery app. And it turns out that's entirely possible. We learned after that there's something called Angular elements that Daryl spoke about just a moment ago. But we realized it wasn't really needed, because you can move away this Angular application that you have, the root element. You can move it away from the volatile like pedestal that's going to set off all your traps, as long as you do it in time before the temple falls down on you. And for example, we used jQuery to move this root element back into the safety of the HTML root, and then back again when we needed it. So that way we could have this shiny new Angular app that did all what we wanted in a modern way, while still being run in an old, archaic environment. So how many of you guys know about strangling pattern? Strangling tree? So this is essentially what we're doing. Strangling tree means that we plant a little seed somewhere where and then we grow from that. So that's the way there's a fig in the jungle that specializes in planting its own seeds on the top of the trees, stealing sunlight, and thus growing from the top of the tree rather than from below, where competition for sunlight is much harsher. So by employing this pattern of development, we can grow our Angular application at the top of the tree where the sun is shining, and gradually removing old features from the JSP jQuery app. And it's, in some cases, we managed to reduce the code size from 1,000 lines to 10, maybe 50 lines. So there's a 10 to 100-fold reduction of code. So yes, we might go the Angular elements way at some point, but I just wanted to tell you that you don't really need to, like in our case, we wanted to have a SPA in the end after all. So now, a year after, we have replaced quite a lot of the old functionality. We've still got a lot of things to do, but we really believe in this way of doing things. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, next up, we have another 5-minute talk by Stefan.
Yes.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, you gonna go over?
How do you pronounce my last name again?
I don't. I'll call you by your Twitter handle if you want me to.
Thanks.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Steven Nieuwenhuis. I work for the largest online retailer in the Netherlands and Belgium, bol.com. And tonight I'm going to tell you all about our framework-independent components library we've built with Stencil.js. Our goal at bol.com is to provide our customers with the best shopping experience they ever had. We do this with about 60 development teams, each with their own way of working, and each team is completely free to pick whatever tech stack they feel comfortable with. This really enhances flexibility, creativity, and productivity. But the downside is that, and what's the downside again? Yeah, well, that all teams have all teams have different solutions for similar problems, which results in differences in the supposed to be uniform, in the look and feel of a supposed to be uniform look and feel of our retail tooling platform, which is bol.com. So we need to get those teams on the same page again. And how do we do that? Well, we ask the teams what they basically need. And they basically need a components library, which is framework independent, contains one single source of truth. They want to be able to contribute. They want to have it flawless integrated in the current tech stacks. And they really want to stop reinventing the square wheel over and over again. So no more different solutions for similar problems again. But they want to keep the freedom as well. Besides that, we wanted to provide a community of developers inside a company with the easiest way possible. And we really want to enable them to contribute to the components library. So we want to really have a flat learning curve. And last but not least, we want to make it performant and scalable as well. So as you can hear, it's quite a long list, and it was quite a challenge to find a suitable solution for every wish the developers had. And we thought we found a solution in web components. That really makes us flexible. We don't have to worry about framework lock-in. For web components are reusable, so that enables us to provide generic components throughout our shopping platform. But as always, there's a downside, and the downside is the steep learning curve. Especially for junior developers, it's pretty hard to build web components from scratch. So we felt that we needed to go for that extra mile. And that extra mile we found in Stencil.js. Stencil.js is really performant. It provides an easy API. It's future-proof. And best of all, it's compatible with all the largest framework and no frameworks at all that are out there. And Stencil.js is basically a web components generator that builds web components that are based on the web standards. So how do we use it at bol.com? Well, we basically built a components library based on Stencil.js, which generates web components. And those web components can be consumed by all the teams. And they can contribute to it via the repository which is hosted on. And that's available for every developer out there. So that's how we combine the power of Stencil.js with web components inside our company. To conclude my story, here at Bol, we want to provide every customer with the best shopping experience they ever had. We do that by providing our teams with the tools that enables them to get on the same page and enables them to speak the same language. And how? By building a framework-independent components library with Stencil.js. I would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to keep it moving real quick. Next up, we have Robert. Let's give him a hand.
Can you shortly make your my screen on?
Hey, AB, can he have slides? There you go.
Okay, thank you for being here, and sorry for making slides, but it makes easier for you to get the point, I think. So first of all, who am I? I'm Robert. I'm a Berlin-based developer. I love to go to conferences. I'm also a co-organizer of NG Girls. And if you have been to the last AngularConnect, you might have seen me on stage singing Barbie Girl. So as you see, I'm a crazy guy. So I also have crazy ideas. And I thought about how would it be possible to reduce the bundle size more effective than it is now. So my first idea, the first idea came to my mind. It remembered me to one guy who just created his website, CSS classes with emojis. So I thought, okay, maybe I could use the same principle just to put some chunks of code into emojis and later encode them when I'm later decode them when it's in the client side. But unfortunately, so the prototype worked, but unfortunately later it turns out, okay, emojis are a little bit bigger than normal text, so it came a little bit bigger, so the first step doesn't work. Then I remembered okay, there is, and Google Chrome, this nice feature of coverage. And when you run your Angular application, you see some the code coverage. So why not using such a coverage report and with a unit test to minimize the bundle size? So what is the idea? Just using the unit tests and the coverage tool to run over the final minified bundle, then generate a coverage report out of this. And with this coverage report and a small Node.js application, I delete the unneeded code and later have an optimized JavaScript. So here, shortly the solution. So the problem I had was how to run the coverage tool over the minified.js. I had just tried to find out how all this coverage stuff working in Angular. It was not so easy, but later I found a nice hack by creating a fake object. So you see the export const helper stuff. So this, when I just use this in my normal app component, then also the coverage report runs over my extra file. And you see, my first coverage report was about 35% of statements which was just covered, so a huge potential. You need to know that it was at the beginning of this year. So you can reduce a lot of stuff. You can also understand your code better, and you are forced to write tests because otherwise the feature would be thrown out. So could it be smaller than Ivy? I thought, yeah. When you look at it at the beginning, when Ivy had 3.6 kilobyte and you run the coverage report, it was around 30% unused code, so there might be a potential. Is it ready? No, unfortunately not, because I discovered, okay, this unit test just using testbed modules and not real modules, so some parts wasn't working. When I have some more time, I can shortly show a demo how it could be working. So here you have an Angular site. I have a small live server running. And when I now do see somebody, where is it? Okay, sorry. Shit. Where's my... Okay. Wow.
Can we pull you out and put it back in?
Yeah, this doesn't count. He gets to finish.
Yeah. I don't know. There we go. Something's happening.
Oh, yeah. Now we see it? Oh.
There you go. Swap it out for that one. Just in case it's in
Okay, sorry for this. So here you see an Angular site, and now I start to run my script. So it shortly compiles the stuff to TypeScript, and then it runs over the working part, which is around 1,500 lines. And I will show you how it has thrown out code. Come on. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, you see sometimes it's on Windows a little bit smaller, so you need to optimize all this stuff. So now he throws out some stuff with a nice little highlighting. It's not so. It could be faster. But yeah, it's just a prototype, so come on. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, and now you should see a reload. It's working still. And you see when you go to the minified JavaScript, you see some deleted lines. So as I said, was just the first type of where it's working. So when I would use more lines, it wouldn't working because of this testing module. So this is the kind of principle. And what I was requesting, if you have any ideas how I could solve this problem, just to make it running over all the stuff and make it really, really, really small, just reach me out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Christian, I'm guessing?
Yep.
If I remember right? Okay, cool. So Christian's up, and we're actually ahead of schedule. Thanks to all the speakers. So take it away, Christian. And he has slides.
I've got slides too. I just need to prevent them from duplicate them. Okay, so today I'm talking about the advent of microfronts. So actually I'm talking about the end of Angular. Some words about me. I'm an avid Angular JS user since 2013. I own a small consultant agency in Dresden. Don't you dare to go on our website. We are too busy to fix that. We do consulting and full stack, yada, yada, this usual stuff. I'm also a founder of the JavaScript meetup in Dresden, Germany, in 2015. I have strong opinions and I love to constructively argue about them. And also if I'm nervous, I tend to speak fast, which comes in handy showing 40 slides in a lightning talk. No, so much about me. And this is Angular. For us developers, it's a cozy, comfortable couch. But there's other furniture to accomplish the task of getting developers to be rested. React, not as comfortable, still elegant. Vue should come out as, does anyone recognize this? Should be a love swing. We skip that one. But it doesn't matter. Because in the end, all those nice frameworks, they will end up in a broken pile of furnitures. Because nobody will use them anymore. So the question is, why are there so many furniture corpses? Well, it's because of this. So it's not an iPhone. It's a monolith, and it's an Angular monolith. And well, monoliths, they look cool, but that's about it. So, I mean, we have been happily building Angular, use Angular to build those modular front-end monolith, but they have some issues. So, you don't get an easy out-of-the-box runtime composition. So that means no independent deployments. So no easy isolated testing. Using Angular, you have quite a pretty big vendor login, which everyone will agree to when he has built an Angular JS monolith. So you're using a platform, and you hope that this platform is the one going to rule them all. But yeah, there are certain issues. So this is just an example of certain issues which don't get fixed. So there's a high demand for features, and they, I don't know, pile up. And another problem is there is no easy reuse of UI components in other technology stacks. So that's why I'm saying Angular UI components are dead, because they can on their own not easily be used. Google is building material web components, and guess what they are using? they're not using Angular. For what it's worth, they're not using Polymer either. There are other companies that are taking a similar approach. So they go, for example, on UI. But what is the solution if the Angular UI components are dead? Well, the solution is micro front ends. So web applications program its pages and features which well, you can look it up on ThoughtWorks. It's a nice definition. Yeah, microfronts, they solve all your problems just as microservices do. Well, actually, they bring their own set of problems, which is an exercise left for the astute listener. Thing is, Angular is not well suited for microfronts that are technology agnostic, so Angular is dead. Well, maybe it's not dead yet. I'd say it depends. So if you're building your microfrontend architecture on top of web components, there's Angular elements, and Angular can still be a nice host for your micro and front-end platform. So let's do a recap. Time is getting red. Deal with the micro frontends. They are cool. Angular elements is, as we've seen, so Stefan already gave away the holy grail that I had in mind. You can use them for true use in other stacks, and they are a perfect building block for technology-agnostic microfront architecture. But so does Stencil.js, as I've said, which uses a lot of Angular's component ideas. So, and another shameless plug, so I have started to make a nice list about microfrontends. And that's it. Let's argue afterwards about me. This is my Twitter handle. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, we got a few talks left, and we're going to keep it going real quick. Here's Mira.
I need a screen.
Can we have the screen up? Thank you, AV. We love you, AV. Oh, yeah, and this is a 10-minute talk, not a 5-minute talk, so don't ding her with the music, please.
How do I connect that?
Okay.
I think so. Can you see stuff? No, not yet. Now? Oh, perfect. Yeah, sorry for the slides, but it will be worth it, don't worry. So I'm Stanimira, I'm from the NativeScript team, and I'm here to show you how you can convert your web Angular app to a mobile app. That's me. I do some Angular stuff, the Angular integration with NativeScript, some schematics to migrate your web apps to mobile apps, and I do quite a lot of Webpack. But seriously, Webpack is really cool, and Webpack is the backbone of our code sharing story. And that's a Webpack error, but I'm happy about it because Webpack is cool. And yeah, just a quick note. I know that 10 minutes are quite a lot of time, and if you ever feel bored, you can go to Twitter and follow me. Don't worry. So what is NativeScript? It is a framework for building mobile apps for Android and iOS, and you can use the most popular web technologies like Angular, Vue, again, sorry, and plain JavaScript if you want that. How do we do that? How do we add NativeScript to a web app? We use NativeScript schematics, which are awesome. They're built on top of the normal Angular schematics that you use when you generate components, modules, create new apps, and stuff like that. And it's a joint collaboration between the Angular and NativeScript teams. And they're really great. You should use them. Okay. Now, what can be shared between your web app and your mobile app? If you have the so-called platform-agnostic services, or something that doesn't have anything to do with the DOM, or the native mobile APIs, it can be shared. If you have some routing configuration, you can reuse that. If you have some component classes, and inside them you're not touching the DOM again, you're using the right abstractions, you can reuse that. Then what cannot be shared? Obviously, platform-specific services. As an example, Angular Material. Angular Material does quite a lot of stuff with the DOM, so we can't use that in a mobile app. But we do have a set of user interface components built for NativeScript, for Android and iOS that you can use instead. Also the markup. So when you're building mobile apps, you have a different user interface, a different way to style your app as well. and you're not using the normal HTML because we don't have a web view. We're rendering down to native mobile components. Okay, I hope that you get that because I'm gonna test you now. That's a question here, and I have socks. So can someone answer, can we share that that is a simple service, movie service, and we have some movies, and a single method that we get them. Can we share that in our web and our mobile app? Okay, the answer is yes, obviously. On to the next one. Can we share this thing here? Raise your hands, someone. Okay.
I have so many native script socks.
That's good. So what we can do instead is write an image button, which looks exactly the same in AngularScript. So that's not the best example. But yeah, the markup is different again. Another example, if it loads. Can we share this component class? Is there anything platform specific in it? Can we share it? I'll give some time to take a look, think about it. It's a tricky one. Okay, if someone is ready with an answer, you can raise your hand and you're not sure. That's right, that's a great answer. Okay, actually the answer is yes. And I can explain that in a moment. So we can ignore the template URL and the style URL. And we can say that we are just reusing the class without the metadata. And in AngularScript, we have that separation. So if you have a platform-specific file, you add .tns.ts. And if you have a mobile file, it's just ts. And if we go back to the template here, when we build for mobile, we're going to look for hint component TNS HTML. And when we build for web, we're going to look just for the HTML file. That's why we can share the class. Simple as that. All right, on to the next one. We have a bunch of commands here, how to get started. I won't spend too much time on that. We can use ng-add to migrate your app, your web app. And then if you have the AngularScript CLI installed, you got to run this command, and it will tell you the rest of the things. Then you gotta migrate the user interface. And again, you can use schematics and the Angular CLI. We have some commands here. I'm not gonna focus on that either because I have something more interesting. And then you're finished. Okay, let's see how that works. I hope this will work. All right, but first, we're gonna play another game. Perfect. Cool. Ice Age. All right, you're first.
This sucks. Thanks.
It won't work. Ice Age. Nice. Next one. Jurassic Park. Let's check. Perfect. This one. Someone raise your hands. You already won. Okay. Okay, the Flintstones. I can't spell that late. I can't roll that far, but I'll try. It's close enough. Okay, one last one. Someone? Godzilla. Okay. Ah. Nice, nice. Yeah, I have 3 minutes. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is try to convert that to a mobile app. And because I have 3 minutes, I can't code that in 3 minutes, obviously. So I'm just going to show you the app. And you can trust me that it works. All right, let's test it. ISH. Perfect. I won't type all the movies, right? Let's go to the code and see what happens here. we have a simple app module that is our web module. We don't care about the content. We're just importing the browser module, animations, material design stuff, and stuff like that. Then we also have the app module TNS. That is the NativeScript module. And here we are importing some modules and things that are specific to NativeScript. It's not really important what we're doing. The important thing that you should remember is the naming convention. And it's the same for every component that we want to be platform specific, right? For example, the game component, we have a single class with some logic inside it. And that logic is not platform specific. It's platform agnostic, obviously. And we have two different templates. The first one is the HTML template that we see here. Again, I'm not going to focus on the code. We're looking on the left side. And then is the NativeScript template, which is actually XML. It's not HTML. It's just for confusion. All right. I don't think I have too many other things to show you, so thanks. I have more socks. If someone wants socks, I'm there.
All right, she left her laptop, so I get a free laptop. You guys get socks. Yeah, but I knew all the movies, so that counts. Even the Flintstones. All right, one sec. So you guys have to listen to me now. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. All right, let me log in. I got 10 minutes. Okay. Can you guys see my screen yet? Okay, well. Come on, guys at the back, you can do it. Okay, there we go. All right. So we're going to talk about one last thing. Present. Prettier. Who here's used Prettier? Yeah, a couple people? All right. Who here's rejected Prettier because it's made by Facebook? All right. So I just wanted to say, don't do that. It doesn't matter who makes things. Like, imagine if none of us used TypeScript because it was made by Microsoft. Like, that would be crazy. It's one of the best technologies out there right now. And Facebook is killing it on a lot of levels. One of them is on the Prettier level. And so this is a plug for Prettier. Who here has an ugly history with like ES-linting rules and like fighting over which ones we should turn on, which ones we should turn off? Some people are laughing, which means I know you're feeling the pain because we deal with pain with laughter, some of us. So I have a really negative relationship around linting rules and which ones should we turn on and which ones should fail the build versus just throw an error and like. Anyway, Prettier helps a little bit with that. It takes away some of your TS-lint options, and it just says, hey, you're handing this over to the Prettier team. Prettier team has decided almost all of your formatting of your code, and you don't get to control most of it, and you're handing it over. But we've already handed over so many things. Like we've handed over like to TypeScript, and we've handed the build off to the Angular CLI team, and we've given up on so many things. Not given up, but we've handed like the ownership of them to so many other people that, for me, Prettier, after using it for one day, I was like, I don't know why we didn't do this forever ago. Like Python has automatic code formatting. Why has JavaScript gone this long without it? So it's pretty fantastic. So a couple useful links, and I'll share these slides afterwards. So there's Prettier.io, where you can go and learn. This is the project homepage. There's an ultimate Prettier cheat sheet, which is a blog post I wrote, and then someone took my blog post and made a schematic out of it, so I'm going to demo tonight. And then I wanted to show how easy it is to add Prettier into Prettierify, a whole project. So I took this NGX virtual scroll, and in 5 minutes I ran the schematic on it, and then I forced Prettier to format all the code. And then I made a commit in PR. It took me about 5 minutes start to finish, and their project was all Prettiered, and they accepted the pull request. So I just wanted to throw that out there as proof that it really is that easy. So real quickly, we're going to create a new Angular project, add Prettier. I'm going to show you. You're going to configure your IDE, and then I'll show off a couple of the options. So let me pull up my IDE. So in my IDE, we just have this is a brand new Angular project. I just created it before I got up here, and there's nothing new in there. You can see here this was the crate here. So if I clear this, I'm gonna install Prettier to my project. So actually, let me show you one thing. So for anyone who's familiar with WebStorm, I don't have any like changed files. This is a clean repo here, real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say ng g, and then I'm gonna use the schematic. I think it's add. Okay, maybe it's all. No, awesome. Oh, okay, sorry, 1 second. Let's try it again. What about add? Perfect, okay. So here we go. So it's gonna do a couple of things real quick. It's gonna add a Prettier ignore, which says, hey, Prettier, don't do these files. An example of that file is like the package JSON, because if Prettier tries to indent it 4 indents on each line, and then npm tries to go 2, and you're constantly just going to be switching back and forth, and every file is going to get modified every single time. It updates your package JSON because it's installing a Husky pre-commit hook, which will pre-commit. It will Prettier everyone's code before they commit. So you don't have to worry about someone didn't Prettier their files. It takes care of it. It modifies your TS-lint because it's going to go ahead and remove a bunch of the files that are going to conflict directly with Prettier, and you're kind of handing those decisions over to the Prettier app. And then it modifies your editor config to make sure everything's good. And it also created your Prettier config.js, which I'm going to go ahead and kind of show it off. So, sorry. So, like in your TS JSON, these are all the rules that it went ahead and deleted. So it took away quite a few rules, which is really, really nice to not have to worry about that. And that's all now being taken care of by Prettier. It also, in your package JSON, it added this pre-commit hook, it added Husky, and a couple other things, and then you have this Husky hook that you can run if you need to. It will run it anytime you commit code. And then it also adds your Prettier ignore and your Prettier config.js. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this file so everyone can see. These are only the options you get. So of all the things that it's going to take care of with formatting, like there's a ton of things it does, and you can get in and read about it. But really, you're just handing off your formatting to them. So like if I wanted to, like if I open up my app component .ts, and I'm using single ticks here. If I go back to my Prettier config and I say single quote true, oh, sorry, I forgot. I have to add, I have to set up oh, I already did. Why is it not respecting that? So we'll say single quote false, and then we'll open up the app component. And if we make a change, it changed everything over to double quotes. And if we go back and we say single quote true, and then we come back and make another change, it just kind of reformats everything for us live, right? And we can go ahead and we can change any of these options, really. We can say our tab width is now 4, and then it automatically format that file. Just make one change, and it formats that file. So like you're kind of handing off the formatting of your system to Prettier. Now, one of the cool things is, like in WebStorm and in VS Code, you can just set this up to run on save. So you don't have to like manually select all, reformat code, which most of us had editors that we could select all, reformat code anyway. But having it happen anytime you save the file is really, really powerful. Also, you're preventing fights among the people, which is a good thing, and you're ensuring that one of the big things that this did for me was I would go into a file and I would add something, and then I would undo it because I didn't need that, but I left like a semicolon missing or an extra semicolon, God forbid. And then when it came time to commit, like I had 15 files that just had like spaces that I had changed accidentally. And Prettier takes care of all that. Like it allows you to like undo a change, and it kind of puts it back the way it was a lot easier. It definitely repositions things a lot more to the default. So. If you're not using Prettier, I encourage you to get all your teams on board. And then the last real talking point is when you have a project that's beyond a starter app, you have hundreds of lines of code, right? Thousands even. And if you have to make a decision when you add Prettier. The decision is, are we going to format every single file day one and do a big commit? Or are we going to add Prettier and just let these, like as I go in and next time I edit a file and I hit save in it, Prettier's going to reformat the whole thing, like whatever changes we agreed to make, and then we'll just let those trickle in over time. So that's kind of the big decision you have to make as a team when you're adopting Prettiers. Are we going to do all the files up front, or are we going to just let them trickle in over time? So that was something I didn't know, and I put it in, and I was like, okay, let's have a team meeting, figure this out. So anyway, we've tried to shortcut all the things. I mean, there's a schematic for this, and it just takes a few seconds to run. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. It's just Aaron Frost at Twitter, or Aaron Frost on Twitter. And but also, if you have any complaints with with like the schematic, feel free to reach out, and we can get some changes back in that schematic as well. So yeah, hopefully you can enjoy, those who haven't used it, you can enjoy Prettier as much as I do. Thank you.
All right, we have one more talk, and we've saved the best for last. Everybody give it up for Klaus.
Okay, we need my screen. Yeah, until it's showing, I'll start anyway. This talk is about linting TypeScript. Craig Spence briefly mentioned using TS-lint rules to ensure you're not using features you're not supposed to use. Also, Aaron just mentioned using or choosing the right TS-lint rules can be quite tedious. And now I'm here to tell you TS-lint is dead. Well, at least that's a post on Medium I recently published. Because there are a few reasons I plugged in.
It's not seeing you for some reason. Oh, that's why.
Huh? Oh, okay.
Sorry. I messed with you. Sorry, man.
Okay, so now you see me? Well, everyone tells you to use TS-lint for linting your TypeScript project. Every scaffolding tool sets this up for you, but I'm saying TS-lint is dead. There are some crucial features missing, like having overrides to disable certain rules for your unit tests, for example, and also it's quite dangerous to use because it can mess up your code if there are some fixes of rules that are overlapping. So who am I to tell you that TS-lint is dead? Well, that's me on GitHub. As you can see, I'm also contributing to TypeScript. My usual TypeScript pull request slows down the build of Angular by by orders of magnitude. And of course, I fixed that shortly afterwards. You're welcome. And I also maintained TS-lint for about a year until it became unmaintained. So I decided to write my own. And it's called the Fimble Linter project, which is a mono repo with several packages. And the main one is Wotan, the CLI to lint your project, and it has a few more. Let's just look into Mimir, which contains all the rules, and I suggest you look at it afterwards. There's a justification why you should use every rule that is contained. And now let's switch over to an actual project of mine to show it in action. So to use it, you just need to install it. So we just do that. And you can use it right away. You can use a recommended preset to use the rules I think are good for your code, and just lint your whole project using the P or project switch, which lints your whole project. So let's just do that. And we see there are quite a few errors. And if I want to fine-tune this preset, I can just drop my own Wotan RC YAML file in there and extend the recommended preset. And in this case, we turn off some rules. And now we delete the C switch to actually pick up this file for linting. And we see it has changed. We now have only one error left, which describes that I have an unused label in my code. Well, this is something I can easily fix if I type that right. So now it's fixed. You can see it's updated. And this is pretty much all you need to know to get started with it. I've already shown the list of rules you can use and choose from, so you can fine-tune that configuration. Another neat thing is you can actually use this tool to lint better than TSLint. So you just drop in another extension. So as you can see, we're adding another package which is called Valture. This is a plugin, as the CLI is fully based on dependency injection. This plugin can alter runtime behavior. So we just use Wotan -m means use this module, this plugin module. So we use it, and we also tell it to use the whole project we linted earlier. Now, this uses TSLint behind the scenes, and we can see this is another formatter than we saw earlier. This is the stylish formatter of TSLint. So it just used that one, and this is also a TSLint rule, which was automatically picked up from the TSLint JSON we have in our project. And this can also be automatically fixed. Note that this uses the fixing logic of my project, not the fixing logic of TSLint, which is apparently broken. So if you can't remember all the goodness in this project, this is all mentioned on the GitHub page, which actually describes what these names are all about and why we need another linter, and of course what it does better than TSLint. I highly recommend you check that out after the talk. So now that we've covered this, I'd like to highlight another small feature you can't get with TSLint, which is using CLI defaults or saving CLI defaults in a file which is automatically picked up. So you might have noticed I've used the -p switch for linting the whole project every time. That's pretty tedious, so I just want to use a default. So I just save my default to a file. This file is called Fimbullinter YAML. And now this is used if I don't specify that option. Of course, there are no errors, but if I reintroduce that error, you see it's still linting the whole project. So that's basically all I wanted to show. Another note, there is currently no extension for VS Code. So if you are able to write one, I'd highly appreciate a pull request. Thank you.
That was awesome. Okay, that was our last speaker, and I want you guys to do me one quick favor before you go, because we have some unappreciated heroes here, but the AV guys, like, their job is kind of literally to be invisible, right? So they don't get any love because nobody even really pays attention to them. So I want you guys to do me a favor and give the AV guys a big round of applause. You guys rock.